Remember back when film studios and TV networks used to concern themselves with making products the public actually wants to see? It's a simple calculus, really. In fact, it's as simple as capitalism can possibly get. You make a product. You want people to buy the product so you can make money. Therefore, it stands to reason, or at least it used to, that the product you make should be appealing to as wide a cross-section of the populace as possible. Because when you're a company that makes a consumer product, you want consumers to buy the product. When more consumers buy the product and are happy with it, they buy more product. And they tell their friends that your product is a good product. Walt Disney used this exact approach to turn a small independent animation studio into the biggest and most successful entertainment brand in the history of civilization. But as we sit here today, a corporate philosophy like that seems little more than a quaint vestige of a bygone age. Here in the woke 21st century, where since about 5 minutes ago, every corporation with more than 12 employees seems to have established a diversity, equity, and inclusion department, along with a pathological obsession with promoting non-normative sexual lifestyles and radical gender ideology. Companies that make consumer products are no longer concerned with making good products, or products that people want, or products that people enjoy, or products that comport with the normal values of normal people. Corporate America no longer seems to give two squirts of piss about any of that. Now, corporate America, they just want to make you a better person. And the way to become a better person is by embracing ideas from the radical leftist lunatic fringe. The way to become a better person is by having a crying, screaming fit over the Florida state legislature, passing a law keeping gay porn and gender ideology the hell out of your kid's kindergarten classroom. If you don't want gay porn and gender ideology being preached to your 5-year-old in your local public school, if you want to be the one who decides if, when, and how your child learns about such things, well, then you're a horrible, hateful bigot, obviously, and corporate America has declared in a very loud, very unified voice that if you're that kind of person, they don't want your money. And what major corporation is on the leading edge of this suicidally self-destructive effort? What major U.S. brand has been most emphatic about not wanting your business if you have a problem with pervert sex predator teachers grooming your children, trying to mold a generation of new recruits? The Walt Disney Company. And Disney, they're not beating around the bush anymore. Their boardroom and the upper echelons of their management structure seem to both be populated almost exclusively by people whose idea of a brand new marketing initiative is a new line of Mickey Mouse ball gags and Donald Duck assless chaps. It seems clear beyond any doubt at this point that Disney is a company of child grooming sex perverts, and that they wish to be seen as a company of child grooming sex perverts. They want the values of child grooming sex perversion to be the values that define the Disney brand, because those are the only values they are interested in promoting or celebrating, because those are the only values that matter. You know what else is a very recent development and a very weird one in the U.S. corporate landscape? It's this bizarre idea that employees have the right to demand that their employers share all of their political views and even actively promote those views. Now, if I'm Bob Chapek, CEO of Disney, and I get an angry email from a couple dozen sex perverts who work for me demanding that Disney publicly insinuate itself into a state legislative matter, you know how I'm reacting to that email? First, I'm going to take a good long minute to laugh uproariously at the pique and the hubris and the presumptuousness and the unwarranted self-importance of these ridiculous dumbasses. And when I was done laughing, I would draft a counter email that said, "Thanks so much for the email. You purple-haired, face-tattooed perverts are all fired. Best of luck in your future endeavors. Try not to molest any kids on your way out the door, assholes." Now, it used to be an axiom, nay, an orthodoxy, in the business world that the customer is always right. Even when the customer is actually wrong, and everybody knows they're wrong, the customer is still right, because we are in the business of selling a consumer product here. And you don't sell consumer products by telling your customers they are terrible people and not nearly woke enough. And if it's true that Bob Chapek was hired to run the Disney shop because the board wanted him to be the guy who dialed back the woke and returned the company to being a middle-of-the-road, wholesome family brand for normal people, then I expect his seat is going to start warming up in a pretty big damn hurry, because this is not that. This is the opposite of that. And let's not forget, it's not like the company took some political stance that the Alphabet People employees didn't like. All they did was to not take a position on a state legislative matter that's none of their damn business anyway. And the Alphabet People acted like this was the worst affront to human decency since the last time Amy Schumer wore a side boob dress in public. Now, does Disney really want to declare open war on the government of Florida? Because I'm pretty sure they do more business in that state than anywhere else in the world. And if Ron DeSantis decided to get into a vindictive mood, he could probably make Disney's life a living hell. As it is, they've enabled him to make political hay at their expense, and lots of it. Here I stand, says DeSantis, keeping the kindergarten classroom safe from sex perverts and child groomers. It is the easiest political position in the whole wide world. Frankly, DeSantis probably ought to send Chapek a thank you note for making him look so heroic and making it look so easy. As for Disney, well, they were already pretty far down the rabbit hole of woke insanity. Or the mouse hole, as the case may be, but they hadn't yet gone so far that they couldn't extricate themselves and reverse course if they chose to. But that is all over now. The woke Rubicon has been crossed. The Disney brand from here on out is now a brand that is most closely associated with homosexuality, child grooming, and transgenderism. Disney is on the side of the sex perverts. So now it's up to the parents of the country, and indeed the wider world, to decide whether they want to continue giving their money to a brand like that, which stands staunchly opposed to everything that can be described as any sort of traditional family value. Me? I just hope Lady Curmudgeon gets me a pair of those Donald Duck assless chaps for my birthday. That's all I care about. From high atop the battlements of Castle Curmudgeon, where we can't wait for Disney to do a remake of Song of the South, where Uncle Remus is a homeless transgender drug addict cruelly murdered by a white racist cop. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America and all ships at sea. Welcome to the program. I am your eponymous host and humble servant. And did you ever get the feeling like there's no longer any place you can send your kids where they are not subject to the creepy advances of child sex predators? Public schools used to be a place that fit that description. Disney movies used to be things that fit that description, but both of those, they're off the table now. And here's the thing about that Florida law. Instead of being outraged and wailing and rending their garments and gnashing their teeth over the law itself, these crazed wokesters would do well to consider that there is a justified cause for moral outrage here, but it is not the law itself. It's the fact that there's a reason why the law needs to exist in the first place. The law needs to exist because pervert teachers refuse to stop talking about their sex lives to goddamn 5-year-olds. In fact, we seem to have a whole generation of public school teachers now who think their job is to talk to the kids about themselves. There was some pervert teacher on CNN yesterday, you may have seen or heard the clip, who said he is heartbroken and scared to death that he might no longer be able to spend the whole day talking to other people's 5-year-olds, to whom he refers as my kids, by the way, because that's totally not creepy at all, about the joys of his gay sex life. This man apparently lays awake at night in abject terror, considering the prospect that he might have to start teaching the 5-year-olds how to add 1 + 2 and how to do art projects with paste and glitter and construction paper. Because, damn it, that is not what kindergarten is for. Kindergarten exists so I can talk about myself and make sure the 5-year-olds share my weird, creepy worldview on matters of sexuality and gender. I made this point last week and I will make it again because I think it bears repeating. If the focal point of your life is talking to very small children about the sex acts that you enjoy participating in, then you should not be anywhere near small children. It seems depressingly clear at this point that America's primary schools are overflowing with teachers who are child sex predators. And since this is the status quo that we parents have allowed to develop through our own apathy and indifference, it is not a problem you're going to be able to fix overnight. So what's my proposal? Well, for starters, every single state should have a law like the Florida law, and it should not be limited only to kindergarten through 3rd grade. So as long as our public schools are infested with creepy sex perverts who gets their jollies talking to little kids about stuff that makes me uncomfortable as a 47-year-old man, I say if we can put a body cam on every cop in the country, then we can damn well put a body cam on every teacher in the country. Not because we want to, but because we have to. Because as a profession, teachers have lost the benefit of the doubt at this point. We can no longer trust these people to carry out their professional duties in the prescribed manner, so until that is no longer the case and we figure out an elegant solution for getting rid of child groomers masquerading as educators, then it's not unreasonable that we should demand the creation of an auditory and visual record of everything that is uttered in that classroom every day. A mom or a dad should not have to take time off work so they can go sit in the classroom all day and make sure there is no sex and gender indoctrination taking place. They should be able to check the video at a time of their choosing whenever they have any concerns, and if the teacher unions want to make a stink about it, well, I, for one, have had just about enough of the goddamn teacher unions. If Randy Weingarten wants to block the doorway and stand firmly in favor of the supposed right of her membership to talk about gay sex to 5-year-olds, then it's time for Congress to take remedial action and break up the American Federation of Teachers, which is a thing that cannot happen a moment too soon, because it has been the life's work of Randy Weingarten and others of her ilk to turn your kid's public school classroom into a place where the only things being taught and learned are how to vote Democrat and how to properly strap on a freaking ball gag. And you know where else we need action from Congress? We need a nationwide blanket abolition of these monstrous policies that allow teachers and administrators to actually gender transition your child without ever telling you about it. Frankly, any parent who doesn't have a problem with that should have their kids taken away. For real. Now, meanwhile, back at Disney, Bob Chapek has proudly announced that they're going to start producing a whole boatload of new LGBTQIEIO content that is specifically targeted at small children. Me, I was never much of a Disney kid, unlike a lot of others. I mean, I watched all the movies just like everybody else did, but as a grown adult, I don't have any particularly strong nostalgic attachment to that content. Precisely because I am a grown-ass man and not an infantilized, overgrown child who obsesses over cartoons and comic books like so many middle-aged people now seem to do. And when my kids were kids, they watched all the same old Disney movies I did, in addition to the ones that came out during their lifetimes, like you've got your, Beauty and the Beast and your Toy Story and so on and so forth. But if I was still a parent of small children today, this would be an absolute no-brainer. So I wouldn't hesitate in saying, that's it, we're done. No more Disney content in this house, no more paying money for Disney products because I refuse to support a company that defines itself as a promoter of radical sexual ideologies to small children. Actually, let me revise that policy a little bit because I would still let them watch the old Disney movies that we have all on VHS and DVD, but I still would slap a hard moratorium on any new content being purchased from Disney because Disney's CEO didn't give me any choice in the matter, for he has proudly proclaimed that Disney's new stated mission is to promote small children being turned into homosexuals and transgenders, both through their own products and programming and through fighting at the state level against any attempt to limit expressions of sexual perversion by child grooming kindergarten teachers. And let's please stop pretending this is some big controversy. It is not. The number of parents who actually want this stuff in their kids' classroom is so vanishingly small, it is probably indistinguishable from a rounding error. If there's anything we know about corporate America and the fake news media alike, it's that the crap they support and promote is not widely popular among the population at large, which is why they try so hard to cudgel you into silence and compliance. Oh, better watch out, they say, or else we'll call you an istophobe, and we'll send the Twitter rage mob after you, possibly also the Department of Justice. You don't want that happen, do you? Pretty nice life you got there. Be a shame if anything happened to it. Just saying. And they do that because they know that you are right and they are wrong. People who are truly secure in the intellectual coherence and the moral rectitude of their views, they do not stifle discussion. They welcome it. They do not attempt to censor and silence their critics because honest people welcome having their ideas rigorously and fairly scrutinized. And these are not honest people. These are filthy, damned liars. Seriously. Think back to when you were in kindergarten, first grade, second grade. You can probably instantly recall who your teachers were. But did you know anything or give a damn about their personal lives? This guy who was blustering on CNN said, "I'm scared to death that my kids won't be able to ask me what I did on the weekend." Now, I went to school for 13 years, as most of us did. The number of times it ever occurred to me on a Monday morning to ask a teacher how they spent the weekend is 0. And when you're super young, kindergarten or first grade, you don't even have a fully formed understanding that teachers are actual people who go home at the end of the day and have lives outside the school. The teacher's always there when you arrive. She's always there when you leave. So in the mind of a 5 or 6-year-old, it's easy to assume, well, I guess the teachers just live at the school since they never seem to be anywhere else. So this idea that the kids in your kindergarten class all arrive on Monday in breathless anticipation of hearing what you got up to with your gay lover over the weekend, that's a figment of your imagination, and it arises from 2 sources: malignant narcissism and unwarranted self-importance. In all the 13 years of my schooling, I only remember one teacher habitually mentioning inappropriate details of their personal life, and that was my 10th grade history teacher, first period. She was in her late 20s at the time, and she really, really wanted the kids to think she was cool and hip, which sometimes resulted in personal revelations that nobody cared about or had the slightest interest in hearing. This teacher, she wound up taking what I will describe as an undue interest in me personally. She would get terribly upset at what she perceived as me wasting my potential, and she decided she was going to make it her personal crusade to rescue me from myself and turn me into a perfect straight-A student. And as the interest grew into something closer to obsession, I made it clear I wanted no part of being her little pet, so I started being extremely rude to her, not because I enjoyed being rude, but because I wanted her to back the hell off and leave me alone. She wound up not taking that very well, though. Eventually, she mails a large manila envelope to my parents full of news stories about teenage kids who listened to too much heavy metal music and went on some axe-murdering rampage, and she includes a little note that says, "I think this might be a real concern." And my parents thought it was pretty hilarious. My grandma, on the other hand, she was pissed. She wanted to drive down to the school and fight the bitch. And my grandma was the nicest little old lady in the history of the world. That was the only time in my life I ever saw her angry. But eventually, 10th grade ends, I matriculate over to the continuation school, and for the next 3 or 4 years, I never thought about that teacher again. Until the day her picture was in the paper because she got busted banging a student out in the parking lot. And as you might imagine, that gave me a lot to think about, retrospectively speaking, like, maybe her apparent obsession really was an obsession. Maybe she was trying to make me her little boy toy and she was pissed off that I rejected her. Which I didn't even realize I was doing, but gosh, maybe I was a grooming victim. But I think I handled it well, and it's never too late to give yourself a high five, right? Now, there have always, regrettably, been teachers who engage in sexual predations against the kids they teach. Men, women alike, far too many of both, but at least it used to only happen at the high school level. Now we've got sex predator teachers in freaking kindergarten, and we cannot allow that. We can't back off because we're afraid someone might call us a name. Your kids have the right to not be targeted sexually by any of the adult authority figures in their life, full stop, period. It's a very basic expectation, and damn it, if we have to put body cams on teachers in order to safeguard that right, then bring on the body cams, I say. And if you care about your kids enough to support that proposal, you should also care about them enough to never pay 1 red cent of your money to the Disney company ever again. And we will leave it there for tonight. Thank you very much indeed for watching. I will see you Friday. Have a pleasant tomorrow. Do not comply. Get off my lawn.